Right.
And it took us so long to try to reclaim our continent, which sustained the world resourcefully, human as well as material.
Right.
That continent, for it to be independent, requires a lot more blood and sacrifice. Unfortunately, sorry to say this, but this is a fact.
Right.
The Europeans will not walk away from Africa as long as Africa continue to drill oil, as long as the minerals are there, as long as people can work for them for free.
Right.
So now, Gaddafi, I'm not supporting any dictator.
Right.
I'm not supporting anybody who are not democratically elected or democratically re-elected.
Right.
And Gaddafi really is not a man that I can support because of that.
Right.
But I do not support another African president to associate with the power that enslaved you, a power that stole everything valuable to you in order to destroy your brother. Let's come together as Africans and then take care of our business. And it may not be nice, it may not be easy, but we have the union. Let's make the union work so that we don't need NATO. The NATO's goal today, yesterday, tomorrow is only to find ways so that they can keep resources flowing to Europe and the West and to keep us divided, weak, and so that they can continue to conquer us. And I am not part of that.
And I support you on that because, see, when I went against the bombing of Libya, it's not that I loved Gaddafi. Gaddafi has caused a lot of problems in Africa himself. My own uncle was the president of Ghana. Gaddafi sponsored his overthrow in 1981. But that does not give me the reason or the permission to support a foreign power bombing Africa. I don't even call the bombing of Libya as the bombing of Libya because that is an integral part of Africa. That's why I went against it. Another thing that made me feel or made me felt so shocked was the fact that Europeans did not intervene in South Africa.
No.
The South Africans themselves caused about their majority rule. If Libyans wanted to get rid of Gaddafi, shouldn't they have allowed Libyans to get rid of him themselves?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
You know, on April 15th, 1958, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah made this statement. Today, we are one. If in the past the Sahara divided us, now it unites us. And an injury to one is an injury to all. Today, we have an organization called the African Union, which replaced the Organization of African Unity, which endorsed the bombing of Libya. Should this not be a violation of the Charter of the African Union? You may know better than me.
Well, recently there have been more discoveries of oil on the continent, and the belief there are reports that says even Sudan may have more oil than Saudi. There are reports.
Okay.
And in West Africa now, Ghana now began to
exploit.
Yeah.
Right.
And in Senegal and Mauritania and Gambia, both they discover oil. And now wherever oil is discovered, America opens a base. Now America has 6 military bases in Africa. All right, 6 military bases. And I'm not talking about Europe, I'm just talking about Americans.
Right.
All right. Now, what happened is this. The African Union is held hostage by the power to be. Because Africa is so resourceful and Africa is so valuable to the development of the West that I don't know how the African Union will be able to resist, the neo-colonial, mentality of few of the leaders who are collaborators with the Western thieves.
Right.
And so because of this, I think we, the Africans in the diaspora, have moral obligation to contribute intellectually as well as financially,
Right.
to strengthen the African Union, because the only hope that we have to at least lessen the grip of the West is to make African Union work.
Right.
Because Dr. Kwame Nkrumah said then,
Right.
those of you who think we are not ready because we have different languages, different cultures, that's not the case. He
Right.
said, look at Europe.
Europe.
For example, look at Switzerland, a tiny place, very diverse.
Right.
Yet it worked. So what Kwame Nkrumah said then, it is applicable now.
Right.
I think it is long overdue for African leaders to really completely stop sabotaging themselves, looting their people in order to live in Europe. In West Africa, all these French-speaking former leaders, if they're not killed, they are either in France. And according to what I heard, they live in among the most luxurious estates in France, multi-million dollars. If you look at the former president of Tunisia,
Right.
The report said 3 or 4 months before he was toppled,
Right.
he bought a home, which is I think the 4th or the 5th, for $54 million. Now, how could a president of Tunisia, who owns several estates in France, bought a home for $54 million? So we're talking about former Nigerian leaders, all these leaders. So I think we need to come back to the message of Kwame Nkrumah, and I also will encourage all the Africans in the diaspora, especially the 4th generation Americans and whatever, to really mobilize and use their intellectual ability and their financial and educational everything to making sure that we promote and support the African Union. It is not perfect. There are a lot of elements that are there for self-serving purposes, but it is the hope. And Kwame Nkrumah and anybody like Kwame Nkrumah will be a target to the Western powers, because unification gives us power, and power frees us, and freedom is not what the West wants for Africa.
So you and I, Gabon, Nigeria and South Africa, voted for this resolution passed in the United Nations to enforce this no-fly zone in Africa. What are we as intellectuals and Africans, people who are well informed, what do we do? What kind of message can we direct to these leaders? Because they're not standing up for us. Normally, a group of people will stand for their interests. If these people are representing Africa at the United Nations, and they couldn't stand for us, couldn't stand against another power bombing Africa, how do we address them?
We address them by dealing with their collaborators. And what do I mean by that? We live here, for example, let's take the Bronx. We have right now more than 100,000 Africans. And a lot of Africans are now becoming citizens, meaning that they're able to participate in the civic affairs of the Bronx. And America is the greatest place to demonstrate the benefit of civic participation. For example, whether it is a city council position or state assembly or state senate or Congress, if you can mobilize about 2,000 people, only 2,000 people in any district, they will listen to you. Now, the leaders in Africa will listen to the Western leaders, and the Western leaders will listen to the voters. Every district where we can mobilize and strategize and get these people to register to vote and go to the polling sites. And now when we have a letter writing campaign, these elected officials will take on our issues, and when they take on our issues, our African leaders will listen, because our African leaders are not representing us. They are representing the special interest groups, which are multinational corporations and the other presidents who are signing contracts and under the table deals. But if we can set the tree from here, we can have a very good chance of making a difference in Africa. And this is, I think, the simplest strategy that we can do to participate in the development of Africa. And I promise you one thing: if the Jewish New Yorkers decide anything to happen in Israel today, tomorrow it happens. Why? Because they engage, they finance, they vote, they strategize, they lobby. We can do the same thing. Whatever works, we copy it and make it work for us. Let's not say, oh, we are powerless. Our leaders are criminal, we can't do anything. No. Our leaders listen to the Western powers, and the Western powers listen to the voters, and the voters are us. And we can definitely participate in the development of Africa by participating in the civic affairs of the United States in any area where we live. Because here, every vote counts. And some elections, for example, in the Bronx 2 years ago, an election was determined by less than 100 votes. The incumbent lost for about 97 votes. So every vote counts. And I'm begging for your listeners to know how important it is to participate. Some of us said, oh, I'm not, politicking is dirty, they are lying, whatever. You're crazy. Because if somebody represents your interests, they need to know that you are on protecting their interests so that they can protect your interests.
Right.
If you go district by district, for example, let's take Riverdale, for example. If an old lady calls her assemblyman, I guarantee you the assemblyman will talk to that lady.
Right.
But now you come to South Bronx, you can call 10 times because you don't vote. The number shows you don't vote. So now why would the person waste his time because you don't vote, you don't participate? Nothing. So we have to mobilize, we have to educate our communities, African communities in particular, so that we can help these elected officials to help our leaders in Africa. Few years ago, we decided that we're going to mobilize. We create some, movements. And now, last year, the New York State recognized May 25th as Africa Day, where the legislatures, New York State legislature, will meet with the African Union representative to have a long-term, whether it's economic, whatever, relationship. And because we are, we know how powerful it is to participate. And I don't like seeing, people say, I don't participate in elections. You have to participate so that at least you have power. Every elected office know who the voters are, building by building by building.
Right.
So we have to participate so that we can make a difference.
You have to have a voice.
Yes.
After the referendum in Southern Sudan this January, there was supposed to be a plebiscite in Abyei to either join the North or the South. Abyei, which is predominantly occupied the Ngok Dinkas, is also where Sudanese oil reserves are located. It looks like the North doesn't want Abyei to go and be part of the South. So they're causing a lot of problems to prevent it from going to the South. In fact, they started bombing the area. Right now, it's relatively quiet, but that doesn't mean anything. But my fear that it could go as far as what happened in Darfur. What is your take on that?
Well, my take on it is that, the Northern Sudan, for the longest, has regarded the Southern Sudanese citizens as, unfortunately, almost as low as animals. Because, unfortunately, some of the Northern Sudanese, they are so happy to call themselves Arabs. They like me, they are like you, but because they are sometimes, so fun with anything but real Africans. And the South Sudanese are tall, dark-skinned, real Africans.
Right.
So they can never ever move the oil wells to the north. Right now, the oil wells are in the south.